Oh, will Baker Mayfield revitalize the Panthers this year?
Yes.
Yes.
I like Baker. I like Baker, and I'm not afraid to say it. A lot of people don't. I think Baker's really good. I really do. No one wants to hear that he was hurt last year. It's an annoying piece of television. It's boring. It's a cop-out. I think he was severely hurt and in pain for most of the season. I think he had major chemistry issues with Odell that spiraled down into Odell's father and just terrible stuff, and I think he had a falling out with his head coach. 2020, Baker Mayfield's healthy. QBR, the stat that sums up everything. He was 10th in the league. He was one spot behind Tom Brady. He was ahead of Derek Carr. He played really well. I think there's a reason that they're calling this thing so quickly. I don't think there was ever a competition between Baker and Sam Darnold. I think Baker is much better than Sam Darnold. I like this team. I really do. And I like Baker, and I like that people don't like him. And he likes that people don't like him. We can talk all about, he's got the chip on his shoulder, and that's great. I also think he's a really good player. And I know that that is not a popular opinion, and people love to turn on him because he's a lightning rod. I think they're going to surprise people. I do. I think they're going to have a winning season, and I think it's going to be a lot because of Baker Mayfield. I like this team. The formula they have with Carolina, just think about it. It's a lot like with the Browns. You got an electric, talented running back. You have a young defense. You got a really good receiver in DJ Moore, and you got a coach who wants to use his imagination. It might be a little desperate. I like him. I do.
I like Baker, too.
Do you?
Yeah, I like his charisma, everything he brings. Revitalize the Panthers. Let's define that. Are we saying revitalize all right, this team is going back to the Super Bowl. They're going to be this year's Bengals, back to when Cam Newton was leading the charge and MVP race and all that? Are we saying revitalize hey, they're just going to make the playoffs? Are we saying revitalize hey, they won't be last in the NFC South?
I think we're talking about them in December, down the stretch.
I think
and they're in the playoff hunt.
is a revitalization.
I really do.
They haven't been in the playoffs since Ron Rivera was there.
For sure, and I don't know that they're going to be that good. Like Jamie just said, those stats, when we look at the offensive side of the ball, yes, Baker's going to change that. He's going to come in. This guy fires people up around him. Like you saw that in Cleveland, the way he talks, the way he plays, the attitude in which he does it at. But I don't think this team is going to be that much improved that we're going to be talking about them late in the season about making a playoff push. I think they're competing. I mean, it's the Buccaneers in that division, and then they're competing with Atlanta and the Saints to see kind of where everybody else just falls. I think, like I said, Baker makes an impact, but I don't see them. They don't finish last in the NFC South this year, which is a huge improvement. They have a young defense, but that Cleveland Browns defense has Myles Garrett on it. That's a whole nother level. This guy changes the entire game from an offensive standpoint. They have to game plan around him, and Jadeveon Clowney's on the other side as well. So I'm not giving this Carolina defense that same label that Cleveland has.
I would say Baker's important and is priority one for them to do that, but Christian McCaffrey has to play.
Yes.
Christian McCaffrey might be one of the best players in football. We haven't had him in 2 years. We're going to do this top 100. I don't even heard one person be like, where's McCaffrey on this list? He's been invisible. He's been a ghost. And it's not because he's soft. It's because of real injuries. And it's not like he's injury prone. These are massive injuries that he's been dealing with. And he's healthy right now. And everything out of Carolina is that he looks like the Christian McCaffrey of old. If you put this guy who had 1,000 yards rushing and 1,000 yards receiving in one season and might be the best receiving running back in the entire league and was a former top 10 pick back on the field, you're a totally different offense. And, Matt Rule's been there now. This is his third year. He hasn't had McCaffrey on his team. No. I think McCaffrey's awesome, and I think he is going to be the reason if they do anything this year. Baker's going to be obviously important, and the quarterback, is the top dog, but if you don't have McCaffrey, it's not happening. McCaffrey is that good, and he is the engine for this offense. So you're talking comeback player of the year stuff. You're talking if this Panthers team is what you're saying, maybe McCaffrey could be in the MVP conversation.
It's like the Titans without Henry.
It really is. It's a different team, and they built it all around him. So. I'm a huge McCaffrey fan. You guys are new to the show. I was doing flips for McCaffrey in the pre-draft process. Everyone's saying he's going to go in the 20s, goes in the top 10, then he develops and delivers in those first 2 years. I have missed Christian McCaffrey so much, talking about him on this show. I think if he's back, the Panthers could very easily be back, and Baker, of course, will be as much of a role as McCaffrey.
Honestly, the question really could be, can Christian McCaffrey revitalize the Panthers in terms of who is this going to fall on? Because I agree with you. Can he revitalize the offense, Baker Mayfield being key? Yeah, the numbers imply that a competent quarterback can come in, especially the way he plays and his style and his connection with Matt Rule. The two of them could create something special on the offensive side of the ball. Baker Mayfield, he's on the younger side of being a quarterback. He has yet to show us that he is a quarterback that will literally galvanize an entire team put them on their shoulders, and go in the right direction. And by the entire team, I mean, does the defense look at his body language for when they need help? And this is a really young defense. You have a Derek Brown, Brian Burns, J.C. Horn is coming back from injury.
Yeah.
But there are certain teams, certain quarterbacks, where the whole team really does look to that guy as their touchstone, emotionally, physically, throughout a game. And can Baker Mayfield be that guy for the Panthers? He could. He hasn't shown us that yet. So does the whole team going to be revitalized off of his play? There's potential there, but it's just I'm not convinced that he is that guy
Sure.
in Carolina.
I think the Panthers need to convince a lot of people. Can I just say quickly, like, Week 1, oh my God.
Yeah. Right?
Panthers, Browns, that is the best game of the week. That is one of the biggest games of Baker's life. It's also like Cleveland, you cannot let Baker throw 4 touchdowns and beat you that day because you got rid of him to get that guy and pay that price, and we just beat us. Like, huge stakes and drama in that game. I like it better than Russ versus Seattle. Like, I'm all in for Week 1 Panthers, Browns. Who knew?
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Like you just said, the people upstairs, ownership,
Oh, my
management,
God.
they're
We need to
coming
beat this guy.
downstairs, and they're in the defensive meeting room like, fellas.
Yeah, they're going
Fellas.
to Jadeveon and Miles.
Yes.
Yes.
Get after him.
You have one
Have
job
to.
this week, and it is to not make us look like
Oh,
fools.
my gosh. We need that game now.
Right.